How you doing, YouTube? Matt, Massive Beer Reviews, back to get another review. A little bit of wild ale time in the form of the Referend Bier Blendary. It is, the name of the rose. I have not had this before. I've done some Referend beers on here. Actually, I think I only have done one, but I've had quite a few. I ended up actually interviewing the owner and blender of the Referend, James Priest, on my podcast, Beer Massive. Go check that out. We had a conversation. It was pretty interesting. And he kind of goes in depth about his kind of, ideas of what he wants to do in the beer world. And that's pretty much the whole lambic style kind of production of beer and pretty much blending and whatnot. But I haven't been down there in a bit. But I was down there today, and they had a couple of different things. I picked up a bottle, and I picked up a can. You don't usually see, this is actually a spontaneously fermented ale aged in oak barrels with cherries, raspberries, and vanilla. You don't usually see those kind of beers in cans, so it's kind of a little bit of a unique offering, let's put it that way. Other than that, there's really not much else on this can. You know what I mean? It's 4.4%, and that's pretty much it. In the background, you pretty much just have like a crack on what's looked to be some dried roses or something like that. Something like that. But I dig the can. So, let's see what she's got. We expect this to come out bursting with color, as it is. Rich, like kind of almost pink lemonade kind of vibes going on in this sucker. Big, rich, pinkish hue to it. A little bit of a head dissipated super quickly. You're talking about a wild fermented beer that pretty much spontaneously fermented sour beer. You're not expecting a head to kind of stick around on it. But yeah, kind of looks like pink lemonade, to be perfectly honest with you. Soft carbonation, nothing too crazy. So does she look the part? Sure. Especially with that kind of, with those berries in there, those raspberries and cherries. And there's a little bit of vanilla in there. Obviously not going to see that. But yeah, definitely looks the part. Let's see if we can get a nose on her. Definitely getting a soft, funky vibe. The beer itself doesn't have a huge kind of yeast monstrosity kind of character to it. It's kind of a very reserved, very kind of just very basic kind of Brett kind of vibes off of it. You do get a little bit of soft berry. Not necessarily jammy, not necessarily sweet, but soft berry vibes and a touch very light sweetness. I guess you're getting that from the lactose. Probably the biggest thing I'm getting actually is a nice wood tannin kind of vibe to it too. So there's a bit of oakiness in there, a little bit of berry. Very small beer as far as impact. Very gentle. I shouldn't say small. It is a small beer, 4.4%, but very gentle. Let's dive in. Cheers. Yeah, there's actually a decent acidity level on it. You get this nice kind of soft acidity that's kind of reined in and kept in check by that kind of lactose. Lactose doesn't come off all that big. It's not a huge sweetness, but you get it enough and kind of gets that acidity and acts as like a limiter, a compressor, and kind of keeps it from going off the rails. You do get those soft kind of cherries, raspberry kind of vibes. Not necessarily very much in your face. More of kind of an earthy kind of berry-ness to it, as opposed to a sweet kind of juicy kind of fruit portion of the show. It's more kind of stems and seeds and pits, as opposed to super fermented fleshiness. Big oak component to it. Huge drying. Very drying. And again, that lactose, just a little bit of that sweet vanilla style kind of lactose. I keep saying lactose, vanilla. But that kind of acts as like, again, keeping that wood, keeping that oak, keeping that acidity in check and not letting it go too crazy. Ends up lending itself to being a little bit more drinkable. It's 4.4% beer. It drinks much bigger than that. Nose didn't lead you to believe it would be this impactful. It's very impactful from the acid portion of the show to the way the fruit plays to where everything is. It kind of, I don't want to say blows up, but out throws its coverage, for the lack of a better term, and it ends up coming in or perceived as a much bigger beer. But yeah, 4.4%. It does have this kind of I know it's kind of, placebo effect. It does have this kind of lemonade kind of acidity to it that kind of makes me kind of go back to the whole kind of pink lemonade thing. It's more berry than anything else than lemonade, but that with that acidity to it, combined with that soft little bit of vanilla, I kind of really dig it. It's fun. It's tasty. It's something a bit different than I've had from these guys. The stuff that I've had, and it's been a while, like I said, but the stuff I had been a little bit more kind of traditional. This is a fun little take. A style, like I said, you don't see in cans that often, so it's a little bit of a novelty, at least for me, to see it. But there's no reason why you wouldn't want to put it in there. I mean, a lot of these sour beers do well in bottles, green bottles. A little bit of light struck doesn't hurt, but yeah, I'm sure you'll see more funky goodness in cans. So yeah, not too bad. Let's talk about it. It's one of the better sour beers I've had as of late. Right on the edge. I've had ones that just skew a little bit nicer for me. I like mine to be not as acidic and have that fruit play a little bit more. I don't want to get into that kind of fake Lindemann's level sweetness and whatnot, but I like the fruit to play a little bit more. The acidity level not to be as big. That's a personal preference of mine, but I still kind of dig it. And that added a little bit of vanilla, like I said, kind of reins everything in, keeps stuff in check so it doesn't get too crazy. So that in itself is fun, but it's right on the edge for me. Value and availability. Brewery only, I believe. You might see drips and drabs at local bottle shops. It was $10 a can. Now, the $10 for a can of beer, people usually freak out, and I'm usually one of them. But you're talking about 16 ounces of an oak fermented sour beer with fruit vanilla. It's kind of, if you saw this in a 500 or 375 milliliter bottle, you wouldn't have any problems with it. It just happens to be in a can, so I don't have an issue with that. And leave you with it if you like what we like this. If you like sour beers, if you like fruited sour beers that are lightly fruited, but you like a decent amount of acidity to your beers while at the same time not being a super high ABV beer. Not sour beers get all that big ABV wise to begin with, but at 4.4%, it does, like I said, kind of outthrow its coverage as far as how it presents itself beer wise. There you go, another review in the books. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive if you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a nice little canned sour right now. And hopefully see you next time. Cheers.